Hello, everybody. My name is Ben Meyerson. I'm over at the FSView in Florida Flambeau, the independent student newspaper for all things Florida State. And today I'm very happy and excited to be joined by starting left guard Dillan Gibbons. Uh, Dylan, first thing I want to start with is Big Man, Big Heart. It's a charity that you've really put a lot of time into. You've really been able to utilize NIL and just for everybody, before I ask you anything, if you haven't already, go to bigmanbigheart.com. You can find all the information there so that you can donate, learn more about what Dylan's doing. But I wanted to ask you first about NIL, Dylan. Before you started this campaign, before you got started with Timothy Fertali, was NIL something that was always in the back of your mind and something that you wanted to use for a charitable cause at some point?
Yeah, so taking a step back, my name is Dillan Gibbons. I'm from St. Petersburg, Florida. I was born and raised, hang out with my family, fishing, and playing a little bit of football. I went to Notre Dame. I was there for 4 years. I got my degree in management consulting with a minor in studio art. My brother, Riley Gibbons, he played football at Stanford, at USF, and then he actually went to law school at Notre Dame. So when I showed up to Notre Dame on campus in 2017, my brother showed up at the same time. So I had a wonderful experience with him up there. The reason I say that is because my brother, being an attorney and being a football player, always kind of had his hand in the pot, name, image, likeness, right? He always understood it. He's become one of the most informed attorneys in the state of Florida on name, image, likeness. He works for Trenum out of Tampa and St. Pete. He doesn't work in name, image, likeness, but he just understands a lot about the legislation and things that have been in place. So to get to the actual answer, of course, I did anticipate a name, image, likeness hopefully being around in my college career. It was kind of a blessing and a curse. Around COVID-19, I was given a 6th year. So last year was my 5th year season. I'm going into my 6th year. I really only anticipated it kind of coming up towards the end of my 5th year, maybe. But when I made the transition from Notre Dame to Florida State, name, image, likeness was part of the recruiting pitch. Again, most people don't understand this, but when you get put in the portal, it kind of restarts your whole recruiting process. So I was treated just as they were treating the high school kids nowadays, which is a little bit different of a tone than I used to experience, right? So you really need to pitch these kids. So at the end of the day, that was one of the main topics I was brought up. Of course, initial thoughts, I knew that the space was going to be completely polluted with underwear deals and car rentals and things of that nature. So I kind of took a step back, right? And I thought about it, and it actually kind of came up back in, I don't know what year it was, my junior year of college. I was in, I forget what class it was too at this point. It was like a strategic management type class. And I had a thought in my head, like, what would I do if name, image, likeness? I could use it next year, next season. And I thought about my friend Timothy. And a lot of people know that story. It was on ESPN, had a lot of coverage, national media type stuff. But I met Timothy Donovan back 2017, actually in my first Notre Dame game right afterwards. I walked out of the tunnel at Notre Dame Stadium, looked through the crowd, met Timothy, gave him a pair of gloves, talked to him for about 45 minutes. And ever since that moment, we kind of leaned on each other, right? He was one of my good friends as I went through the whole college experience at Notre Dame. So I wondered what more I could do for him. And of course, him being a lifelong Notre Dame fan, just like me, I knew it would be tough to get him to Tallahassee, right? I knew it was kind of a conflict of interest, especially because of what he's been through in his life. And Notre Dame was there for him at different times, and so was I. So to have him come to the Florida State game and be able to raise some type of funds was the initial goal, right? To give him his day in the sun. So with those very, very humble origin story of how this whole GoFundMe kind of blew up, I was absolutely taken away. I never anticipated raising over just about $90,000 for him and his family, being able to provide several different things, whether it be them widening the hallways in the bottom story of their house so Timothy could go through in a wheelchair, a lift to get Timothy in and out of bed. So his mother, Paula, didn't have to lift him every day, or even just making the shower handicap accessible. Small things, and then bigger things, being able to provide them a new handicap accessible van, and some other wonderful instruments. The Dalton family's been through so much. Timothy's been through 50 plus surgeries. Paula has dedicated her life to taking care of Timothy. just for a small example of what's going on, like this December, most people don't know this, but Paula actually was diagnosed with breast cancer. She ended up having a double mastectomy, and she's doing wonderful now. Things are looking great for her. But that's just one small glimpse into the adversity they go through on a daily basis. And to be able to raise that significant amount of funds to greatly increase Timothy's quality of life and take some of the financial burden of his care off the family, it has been absolutely amazing. In that event, actually just the kind of the first week of starting that GoFundMe and being able to raise about $30,000 is what sparked my idea around Big Man, Big Heart, and empowering other student athletes to do good with their name, image, and likeness. So that's kind of my short answer.
Well, and you kind of led right into Timothy for Tally. And the question I had for you about that is, when you started the campaign, did you anticipate it getting as big as it did? And you know, it seems like, I mean, once the snowball started rolling, it just kept building and building steam.
Yeah. So just analyzing back when everything kind of happened, I had no clue it was going to blow up the way it did. Honestly, so my whole family's attorneys, so they kind of wrapped their arms around me, right? Helped me with at least a lot of the storytelling side. I took some data storytelling, data visualization classes in Notre Dame, and that helped me in kind of putting together all of Timothy's story into a very readable block of text, along with some very creative advertising and pumping it out through my social media, leaning on my teammates to put it out as well. I knew it'd get some traction. I knew it'd reach our initial goal of at least a couple $1,000s, but I did not anticipate it blowing up like the way it did. And Florida State absolutely wrapping their arms around me. My fans back in Notre Dame were doing the same, and fans all around the country became inspired from Timothy's story. You know, that's the hard thing that I haven't been able to pin down. Just the amount of impressions, right, that people have had, the stories that I've been able to tell through Big Man, Big Heart. Again, Big Man, Big Heart, just inspired from that event. My initial goal was to empower other student athletes through my charitable tool belt, right? I'm the only athlete sponsored by GoFundMe. I have sponsorships from other organizations like Good Sam, Camping World, Super Coffee, National Truck Protection, and most recently, Florida FWC. But Brady Scott, he had childhood cancer. He prevailed through it. His family really went through some desperate times early on, but he became a big, strong dude, right? He played college football. He played at the highest level, and he was a really good athlete. So he actually ran into a little girl when he was in South Carolina. Her name is Liana Joy. She had basically the same type of cancer that Brady had. She was also struggling. Her family was going through some tough times. She went through numerous rounds of chemotherapy. And basically, the plan was to go through one more round of chemotherapy and then move the whole family down to Orlando to basically get some bone cell or bone stem. I can't remember the exact procedure's name, but bottom line, it was going to hopefully help her in her goal of being cancer-free. The last round of chemotherapy didn't go the way that they necessarily planned. Liana Joy ended up passing away in early December. And that's just part of the thing you don't really think about, right? And doing good and making relationships with people and raising money for individuals, you don't really think about like what happens in the worst case scenario, you know. And that's been one of the toughest part about this. You know, you can't help everybody, and there's only a certain extent you can. But we were able to raise about $25,000 to help them in the last couple of weeks of their lives. You know, they got to do some really fun things as a family, and we got to watch her go in the way that she wanted to go. So that's just I don't know, just some of the things you don't think. I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, it's been an incredible process. You know, being able to help people out in different stages of their lives, different stages in their condition, and of course, with the empowering student athletes, I've been able to raise about $200,000, a little bit over, from the past season, to help people like Liana Joy, like the kids like Tyler Paul in the world, like Timothy Donovan. But I've also been able to help a lot of people here in the Tallahassee community. So right now, I'm planning an event for the spring. I ran a pretty big event back in December. It was around taking kids shopping, right? So I ended up bringing 40 of my teammates to one of the local Walmarts here. Ended up bringing 35 kids from the Boys and Girls Club to meet us at that Walmart. We walked those kids hand in hand through the Walmart. I provided $100 gift cards for each of the kids. Picked out some great Christmas gifts. Ended up bringing them back to our football facility. putting them through a kids camp. I actually invited my whole staff from Florida State. So a lot of people in the athletic department showed up, had a wonderful experience, put them through a bunch of drills, got to see what they're made out of. And then at the end of the day, we brought these kids back to the walk-up community in Tallahassee and the drive-up community, gave them each a hot pizza from Gain Street Pies, and gave each of their families an additional $100 gift card to Walmart to try to alleviate the expenses that come up in the holiday season. So that's one example. What I'm planning right now is pretty special. It's a fairly big event. One of the biggest things I've been able to put my hands on, at least yet, through Big Man Big Heart. It's going to be for anywhere from 70 to 90 kids from the Boys and Girls Club here in Tallahassee. Basically, it's going to be at Joe Budd Park on April 30th. So I'm working with Camping World, Good Sam, Bass Pro Shops at Tallahassee, and then Florida FWC. So FWC is going to bring about 30 officers, 30 to 40, hopefully. We're going to teach these kids how to fish. Like I said, I'm from St. Pete. I was born and raised fishing. I didn't always play football. I've always been fishing though. So it's one of my passions, something that drives me. You can see in the background, there's a couple of fishing rods. So basically, we're going to teach these kids how to fish. We're going to bring in a faith component. So my core values are faith, family, football, and fishing. Those are the things that get me through life. Those are the things I look to and help me in every which way. There's not many negatives about them. So again, it's going to be an incredible event. I've invited a bunch of really cool individuals to come. Hopefully I'll have a good turnout from a lot of the guys from the team. We're going to have a lot of kids there. Going to have, of course, officers from the FWC. We're going to have officers from Capitol Police, Florida Bomb Squad. A whole bunch of officers are going to step up that want to get involved in the youth here in Tallahassee. Some already do, but it's going to be a great experience to help kind of formulate that bond. Because as you can imagine, these kids probably never met an FWC officer. They've probably never met a bomb squad officer, but they are the frontward facing, face of government. At least on our small ecosystem here in Tallahassee. They don't really get to see the politicians. They don't really get to see the lobbyists. They don't really get to see Governor DeSantis. So it's going to be pretty cool to give them that experience. A positive experience. They're probably going to catch their first fish. This is an overstocked pond, so they're going to catch their first fish. Have a great experience with a guy or gal that has a gun on their hip and a badge on their chest. So it's going to leave a much bigger impact than something that I could have done myself. So again, I'm really excited for that event. I'm excited to kind of see how that goes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically press, copy, and paste from these two events I'm going to be running, or I did run back in December, and I am going to run here on April 30th, and put them all over the state of Florida. So at each of the schools, I have collegiate ambassadors. So it's been a kind of a crazy process. Of course, a lot going on, being an MBA program, transitioning into a new football team, and of course, running the day-to-day operations of Big Man Big Heart. But I have a great team behind me. Like I mentioned, my family, they're all attorneys. I have 2 interns here in Tallahassee, and then I have 3 individuals that work with me over at GoFundMe. They're part of an executive team. So again, I just can't thank everybody in the community for wrapping their arms around me and helping me throughout this process and helping me do the most good while I'm here in Tallahassee.
Well, and that's great, Dylan. I was going to ask you about the short-term goals, but you already talked about what's going on this year. The one thing I wanted to make sure I asked you about is, 5-10 years from now, what's your dream for Big Man Big Heart? Where do you want this to go beyond Florida State?
Yeah, so I had a conversation with the CFO of Tim Tebow's charity a few days ago, and it's tough, right? So I didn't call this charity Dillan Gibbons Charity. I called it Big Man Big Heart, because my goal at the end of the day is to have this something bigger than me. I've been able to do a lot. I've been able to make an impact here in Tallahassee, but that's not what it is. I don't want this attached to my name. I want this to be bigger than just me. I'm an offensive lineman. No one cares about me. People only care about me if I jump off sides or give up a sack on J Trav. That's what my goal is. I only have 1 more year. I have a 6-year of eligibility. I'm going to play my absolute hardest, hopefully get to the next level. But the effort I'm putting in now, the gratification I get in waking up every single morning, knowing that I'm going to change somebody's life and I'm going to make my impact while I'm here in Tallahassee, is going to be enough to push me and hopefully get to the point to raise significant funds, to be able to run this nonprofit by itself and not necessarily have to rest it on my name. So again, I can't thank everybody that's helped me out so far. I can't thank you enough for taking this interview today.
No, of course, and I appreciate you taking the time, Dylan. And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you one question about the football team. And one person I'm really curious about is your now offensive coordinator, Alex Atkins. He got the promotion from offensive
Mhm.
line coach. Obviously, you have a lot of experience with him. Um, what should FSU fans expect from him? What kind of flavor do you think he's going to put on Florida State's offense?
Yeah, so one of the most important things of being an offensive coordinator, at least in my experience, is building that trust, right? Whether it be the way an individual carries themselves on a daily basis, the way that individual treats the people from the top of an organization down to the bottom, or just the consistency in the approach, right? And of course, you could point to some bad examples. Even here at Florida State, there's been some coaches that have been questionable. But my experience with Alex Atkins has all been based off trust. He didn't, when I decided to transfer from Notre Dame, it was a very uncomfortable thing to do, right? I had it written down basically, written in the sky somewhere, written in concrete, that I was going to be part of the MSN program at Notre Dame and that I'd have a very good shot at starting at Notre Dame. And those are just two things that were going to happen if I stayed in Notre Dame. Leaving Notre Dame was very uncomfortable, but I had the confidence of Coach Atkins. He told me I'd have a shot to play and be the left guard here at Florida State. And he didn't promise me anything else. And come back down here to the state of Florida has been the best decision of my life. And it wasn't necessarily for Coach Norvell. It wasn't necessarily for Florida State. But looking in Coach Atkins' eyes, understanding who he was as a younger coach with a fresh mindset, and really the element of radical candor. Coach Atkins, he's different. And I know a lot of people say that, but a lot of people can't really explain it. But he teaches in a different way. He teaches to different people in different ways. So like for me, I'm more of a visual learner, of course. So everything I do is going to be on a board or even just watching film. He caters his approach to different players. He's not necessarily that rough and tough old offensive line coach you see, just in pop culture and all around college football. I've built up a bank of trust for Coach Atkins, and I've done the same with him. But it's been an incredible process. And I know that he has a lot on his plate right now, but I'm very excited to see him execute when it does come time. And I have utmost confidence that he'll be able to do his job. I know that he didn't come to Florida State just to be an offensive line coach. So I'd appreciate if everyone else had the same confidence I had in him, because again, I would have made the decision to come down here if it wasn't for Alex Atkins.
Well, and that's a great endorsement of him. And I'm just getting to talk to Coach Atkins. All of what you're saying feels really true.
Mhm.
And just all of the players who I've spoken to just have such a high regard for him and what they're going to be doing moving forward. Getting out of here, though, everyone, if you haven't already, go visit bigmanbigheart.com. Make sure you go and follow Dylan on Twitter. You can see what he's up to in the future. You can see what Big Man Big Heart is up to, and you can keep up with Florida State there. Dylan, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate you talking to me, and I wish you the best of luck going forward, man, and stay healthy.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. And again, I can't thank you enough for giving a shout out to Big Man Big Heart. I need as much support as I possibly can. It's hard to do this stuff myself. Of course, I have a good team around me, but it's people like you that help create change in our environment here in Tallahassee. So I can't thank you enough. If you ever need anything from me, please reach out. The same to anyone listening or watching today. I'm not sure how you're going to put this up there. If anyone needs anything from me, please reach out. Again, like I said, with my collegiate ambassadors and with my players here at Florida State, there's people in our community that need help. I need people to find those individuals, people ingrained in the program, people even relatively, associated with Florida State or in the Tallahassee community. If anyone needs help, please reach out to me.
Yeah, well, and please reach out to Dylan and make sure you go and check out what he's doing at Big Man Big Heart. You can read all about it there on his website.